I have to say that as soon as I read these readings today, I was thinking about something that happened back in 2006. 2006 was the 250th anniversary of the birth of Mozart. And I was in Dallas, Texas, working at a school. Catholic school, of course, as a priest. And so the school organized a field trip to the Meyerson to go see the Dallas Symphony Orchestra perform music from Mozart for his 250th anniversary. And I was there with kindergarten through 8th grade. And I was sitting next to a boy who was probably in 4th or 5th grade, I don't remember. But anyways, he's sitting there, and during the concert, they were playing the overture to The Marriage of Figaro, which is beautiful. It's like famous. And this little boy next to me, he goes, psst, psst. I'm like, what? He said, this is boring. And I looked at him, and I said, and he said, no, closer, so it's closer. And I said, you know what? You're boring. You're boring. You know why? What have you done? What have you done? This kid wants to say that Mozart is boring. Mozart used to bring in thousands of people to listen to his performances. He wrote so many different types of music. He was popular when he was alive. He was popular when he died. He's been popular for 250 years. Have you ever heard of Katy Perry? Okay? Not so much anymore. Lady Gaga? Have you heard of Lady Gaga? Yeah, not so much anymore. Not to say that they're not wonderful people, but to persevere for 250 years, that's remarkable. That's striking. My dear brothers and sisters, today, in today's readings, it's all about not being boring. People come up to me and say, Father, my prayer life, my spiritual life is kind of like, it's boring. I don't feel like going to church anymore. I don't feel like praying anymore. And I'm like, you know what the problem is? You're boring. Do something. Get involved. Are you going to tell me that the Catholic faith is boring? Love your enemies. Oh, that's so boring. Love your enemies. Oh, yeah. Oh. Forgive 7 times, 70 times. Oh, yeah, that's boring because it's so easy. So easy to do. Be generous. It's better to give than to receive. Oh, how boring. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. You know what's boring? Receiving all the time. You know what's amazing? Giving all the time. That is remarkable. That is really exciting. Especially when everybody doesn't like it or people can't stand you. In the first reading today from the book of Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, you duped me, Lord. What is he saying? I thought this was going to be easy. You and I together, we were going to conquer all of Israel. Everybody was going to listen to us. Things were going to change because you were going to snap your finger and everything was going to be beautiful. And it didn't work out that way. All the day, I'm an object of laughter. Everyone mocks me. I say to myself, I'm not going to talk about you anymore. I'm not going to talk about you. Because every time I open up my mouth about you, everybody is always making fun. Oh, you're still Catholic? Oh, you're a Christian? Oh, I see. Right? You really believe in this God? You really believe in all this? What's it gotten you? Nothing. But then Jeremiah says, but then it becomes like a fire burning in my heart. I can't stop doing it because I'm passionate about it. And then Jeremiah begins to realize something that we all don't want to hear. You know, a couple of days ago, I watched an interview with Stephen Colbert. Does everybody know who Stephen Colbert? Stephen Colbert is one of the late night TV hosts, you know? You have Jimmy Fallon, you have Jimmy Kimmel, and you have Stephen Colbert. Funny enough, all three of them are Catholic. But Stephen Colbert kind of, once in a while, he pushes the Catholic faith. And he was being interviewed by Anderson Cooper on CNN. And Anderson Cooper said to him, you know what, you said something. And almost with tears in his eyes, the anchor, right? Anderson Cooper, with tears in his eyes, he said, you said, what punishments of God are not gifts? That you have grown to love the thing that you most wished had not happened in your life. To love the things that you wished would never happen in your life. And Stephen Colbert, he says, I believe it. I believe it. That even the punishments from God are a blessing. And he says, why? Because remember the first blessing that you have received. What is the greatest blessing you have received? What is the greatest blessing? Think about it. What is the greatest blessing? Oh, my husband, my spouse? No. My children? No. What is the greatest blessing that you have received? Life. You are alive. I am alive. Can you imagine? We beat the odds. That this whole place could have been filled with other people and not us. The greatest blessing that we have all received is that we are alive. And if you're alive, that means you will suffer. Because suffering is part of life. But every time you get through it, you begin to realize what a blessing this is. How amazing it is. How Jeremiah didn't want it, didn't look for it, and now all he does is he talks about it. And even Jesus says, when Peter says to him, out of love, God forbid that anyone would ever lay a hand on you. God forbid it. And what does Jesus say to him? Peter, this is part of my mission, to suffer for you. Why? Why, Lord? Why would it be part of your suffering? Why would it be part of your mission? Why is suffering part of your mission? Because every time you see me, every time you remember me on the cross, the first thing you're going to say is, you did that for me? You love me that much? If you ever ask yourself, am I worth it? Just look at a crucifix. That's all. If you ever ask yourself, am I really worth living? Just look at the crucifix. You're worth it. You're worth every drop of my blood. You're worth it. So if I'm worth it, then I should also be willing to do it for someone else and to sacrifice for someone else. So that every time they look at me, they know I love you and I care about you. The fact that all of us have to suffer brings us all together. Imagine if only some people had to suffer in their life. And let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Let me get something out of your mind once and for all. Everybody suffers. Everybody suffers. Not just the poor, not just the weak. Everybody suffers. Everybody suffers in different ways, but everybody suffers. Is that something to be scared of? No. It makes the best stories ever. And why? Because it reminds us that we are united with God, with Jesus Christ. If your faith is boring, then what is the Lord telling you today? Pick up your cross and follow me. Do something. Get off your behind, right? And do something. Get involved. Get involved. Let me tell you, the youth group at this parish, we have a youth minister that has impressed me a ton. I give her something to do, and she goes 100 miles per hour with it. 100 miles per hour. And this person has experienced suffering. And because she goes 100 miles per hour with it, all these young people are now becoming part of our youth group because she is willing to suffer for them. And you'll read more about her and all that she's doing for the youth group later on. But we have all seen it, my dear brothers and sisters, we have all seen it, that when someone goes the extra mile for us and suffers, we then begin to realize how much we are loved. It's not the words, it's not the hugs, those help, but it's not the words or the hugs. It's when you pick up your cross and you say, I'm going to follow you, and I'm going to do it. So if your faith is a little boring, needs a little kickstart, take a leap of faith and do just one thing that the Lord would invite you to do. And you know what it is. You don't need me to tell you. And I believe once we do that, we'll begin to experience what it really means to be alive. Amen?